Before we get into this lesson, if you want to take a moment and create an arrangement of your data however you wish, that's fine. If you want to mimic what you see here on screen, please feel free. We'll work under the premise that you have built a pivot table to use. Next, let's take a look at how to work with sorts, filters, and slicers. If you've been working with lists for a while, you notice there is a recurring theme. And that theme is the ability to sort and filter your data. Well, guess what? You can also sort and filter your data here in your pivot tables. So we'll take a quick minute here to study how it's done. If we wanted to sort our pivot table, we can go up here, click on the drop arrow, and then choose sort A to Z or Z to A, depending on what we want. Just realize that by default, whenever you add a field to a quadrant, Excel will sort your data alphabetically. If you're into cheap gimmicks, a cool little trick you can do is rearrange your data manually. The way it works is this. You click the cell you want to move, then hover until your mouse looks like this. Then click and drag, and you can put that row wherever you want to. And let's do a quick reset here just to keep us sane. Moving on, you can also filter your pivot table. You can do that by clicking the drop arrow right here. From there, you can check the pieces that you want to see and uncheck the pieces that you do not want to see. Very straightforward, nothing too complicated. Moving on, another way we can filter is to add a field to this filters quadrant, which is something we have not talked about yet. Now, arguably, this method is becoming obsolete because there is a better way to filter, but just for the sake of thoroughness, let's take a quick peek. So let's take our customer source and drag it down here into the filters quadrant. Then, when we let go and look in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see the customer source has appeared up there. Now it's just a matter of clicking on a drop arrow, and we can filter out what we want. If we want to choose multiple items, we can select the box right here where it says select multiple items, and we can check or uncheck to our heart's delight. Even though we can do all this cool stuff, just recognize that the filter does have its limitations. So there's a much more efficient way to do filtering, and that's to use something called the slicer, which we'll see in a moment. But first, let's take a look at how to get rid of some of our fields because we have not studied that yet. So if you want to remove a field from your pivot table, what you can do is A, uncheck the box over here on the right-hand side, or B, drag the field out here into no man's land and then let go, and the field will be removed. Just be aware that when you remove a field from your pivot table, that just means it will not be displayed. So before we see the slicer, let's start clean and let's get rid of that customer source field. You can make your choice. I'll drag mine over here and let go. Now, as we mentioned earlier, time for the slicer. The slicer is really a filter 2.0. What it does is gives you little buttons that you can click on, and then when you click on those buttons, they behave the exact same way as a filter. The main advantage you have over a slicer is they are much easier to use because you're just clicking on some buttons. So let's see our slicer in action. We'll go up here and click where it says Insert Slicer, and let's choose our customer source. And now, once the slicer pops up, all we have to do is just click on our buttons. And as we've been saying, this will behave the exact same way as the filter. If we want to clear our results, we can click the funnel icon with the red X on it right here. And if we want to see multiple selections, we can hold our Control key down and then click on the buttons that we want, and Excel will show us the results. For the sake of time, we won't demo this, but just know you can add in multiple slicers if you wanted to. That's all we'll cover in this section, and we'll see you in the next one.